The mountain shuddered. It was a low, hungry rumble that began deep within the stone, unsettling snow-dusted rocks and sending shivers through the frozen earth. A curtain of mist, thick and white, parted reluctantly as a colossal silhouette pushed its way through the boulders. The giant armored buffalo had awakened. Its emergence was not a quiet arrival but a declaration, a tremor that announced the presence of a living war machine. Every heavy footstep cracked the frost-hardened ground, the sound echoing like breaking stone. Plates of bone-like armor scarred with the deep lines of ancient battles coated its massive shoulders and back, shimmering with a metallic sheen under the pale, cold light. The wind, howling dramatically through the narrow, jagged cliffs, seemed to wrap around its immense form, carrying the scent of raw, primal power. Steam plumed from its flared nostrils, each breath a hot cloud in the frigid air. This was no ordinary creature. It was a titan forged by the mountain itself, a guardian of this brutal frozen domain. From a high unforgiving ridgeline, a new sound answered the mountain's groan, a series of deep, guttural roars that rolled across the valley like thunder. 3 wild mountain gorillas descended, their movements a display of raw, explosive strength. They were titans of a different kind, shaped by the same brutal climate, but built for agility and crushing force. Their fur was thick with frost, clinging to their massive torsos and muscular arms like a second skin. As they moved down the cliff face, their powerful knuckles punched deep into the frozen soil, leaving craters in their wake. Snow cascaded from the cliff edges as the alpha, a silver-furred giant, let out another earth-shaking roar, a direct challenge to the armored beast below. The air crackled with tension. The audience in this silent theater of stone and ice knew that a collision of power was imminent. The buffalo took a deliberate step forward, its heavy hooves crunching through a patch of ice and into the soil beneath. It was now inside the gorilla's territory, a fact declared by the ancient scars clawed across the surrounding rocks, vestiges of past conflicts, silent stories of battles fought over this very ground. The gorillas responded instantly. The alpha rose to its full height, beating its chest in a rhythmic booming display of dominance that vibrated through the air. The other two followed suit, their combined roars a unified front against the intruder. The buffalo remained unmoved by the sound. It lowered its immense head, its curved, frost-tipped horns catching the weak sunlight, glowing like polished blades against the stone-gray fur of its brow. The tension thickened, so heavy it felt as if the air itself might crack. This was not a chance encounter. They had fought before, generations of their kind locked in a cycle of territorial war. Now, it was time for them to fight again. The standoff broke with the violence of an avalanche. With explosive force, the gorillas launched themselves from the high rocks, soaring through the mist-filled air toward their target. In the same instant, the buffalo charged, its immense weight propelling it upward along the slope in a burst of terrifying speed. The clash was inevitable, a cataclysm of horn versus fist. The first impact sent a shockwave through the mountain. Snow erupted in a blinding white explosion, thrown high into the air as the titans collided. Rocks, dislodged by the sheer force of the impact, tumbled from the cliffs, bouncing down the slopes with a deafening clatter. The echoes of the initial clash bounced between the peaks, a symphony of destruction that shook the valley to its core. The battle became a brutal dance of strength against armor. The alpha gorilla landed a series of powerful punches against the buffalo's flank, the sounds like hammers striking an anvil. The blows, which would have shattered stone, barely registered against the thick bone-like plates. The buffalo retaliated, its movements slow but unstoppable. It swung its massive head, its horns scything through the air and forcing the gorillas to leap back. With a powerful thrust, it caught one of the younger gorillas, flipping it effortlessly into a deep snowbank. The gorilla righted itself, shaking its head, while another, seeing the futility of bare-fisted attacks, smashed a nearby boulder with its fist. It heaved a large shard of the rock, preparing to use the mountain itself as a weapon. The logic of this monstrous battle was clear. The buffalo's impenetrable armor could withstand pure force, but the gorilla's agility and intelligence allowed them to adapt, turning the environment into an extension of their power. The mountain itself seemed to come apart under the strain of their combat. The fight's intensity triggered slides of snow that cascaded down the cliffs, roaring like whitewater rapids. Ancient, frost-covered pine trees were uprooted, their roots torn from the frozen earth as the combatants crashed through them. The ground fractured under their combined weight, with deep cracks spreading like webs across the stone and ice. The fight shifted dangerously, moving closer and closer to the edge of a sheer cliff, where a single misstep meant a fatal fall into the misty abyss below. The raw force of their blows kicked up swirling snowstorms, creating localized blizzards that obscured their forms, turning the battle into a chaotic whirlwind of white fury and dark moving shapes. Then the emotional heart of the conflict was laid bare. In a moment of chaotic exchange, the youngest gorilla, driven by bravery but lacking the experience of its elders, was struck by a sweeping horn and thrown hard against a rock face. It let out a pained cry, its leg bent at an unnatural angle. A hush fell over the battlefield. The alpha gorilla, seeing its injured clan member, turned from the buffalo. Its face, once a mask of determined rage, twisted into something far more profound, heartbreaking anguish. It let out a roar that was not a challenge but a lament, a sound filled with a grief and fury that seemed to make the very air vibrate with sorrow. The giant armored buffalo, poised for another charge, hesitated. Its intelligent eyes watched the scene, and for a fleeting moment, the ancient aggression in its gaze softened. Across its own armored hide, a long, deep scar mirrored to a mark on the alpha gorilla's chest was revealed by the shifting snow. This was not just a fight for survival. It was a battle steeped in history, pride, and the painful memory of loss. That shared history, that moment of pained recognition, ignited the final, desperate clash. Both sides, fueled by rage, grief, and a primal need to protect their own, charged one last time. They met at the cliff's edge in a maelstrom of snow, dust, and flying ice. The ground beneath them, already fractured, gave way with a final groaning crack. The buffalo, its hooves scrabbling for purchase, skidded dangerously, its immense body teetering on the precipice. The alpha gorilla, using the last of its strength, threw a final devastating punch that knocked the buffalo off balance. But just as the titan seemed destined to fall, it dug its powerful hooves deep into the crumbling rock, arresting its slide at the very last second. It held its ground, breathing heavily, its body trembling with exertion. The gorillas stood their ground, watching as their injured member was carefully helped to its feet by the other. The buffalo turned, its massive head held high, and began to retreat back into the misty peaks from which it came. The snow slowly began to settle, the howls of the wind softened to a whisper, and the mountain returned to a fragile peace.